After professional otaku Tomoya meets Megumi, a beautiful girl, he's inspired to make a dating sim, with the main heroine based on her. He enlists the help of his colleagues Eri, Utaha, and Michiru to help. However, the road is not easy, as he must balance personal relationships, deadlines, and to mold Megumi into the perfect heroine. While biking downhill, new high school sophomore Tomoya sees a beautiful girl and an encounter that will change his life forever. Tomoya is a true-blooded otaku. His room is filled with posters, DVDs, and figurines, and he manages a personal blog where he shares anime, light novel, and game reviews. At Toyogasaki Academy, Tomoya's friend Yoshihiko calls his attention towards Eri, a popular half-English student and art prodigy. Before the entrance ceremony, Tomoya invites Eri to collaborate with him to create a visual novel based on his encounter with a mystery girl. Eri is a well-known artist not just for her conventional work, but also for her R18 doujinshi. Eri refuses, calling Tomoya's dream shallow, but he asks her to meet him in the AV room later to reconsider. During the entrance ceremony, Yoshihiko fawns over Utaha, the beautiful honor student whom he says is a parallel to Eri. Later, Tomoya approaches Utaha on the roof to ask for her help in his visual novel, but she crumples up his proposal, calling it misguided passion and a blatant ripoff of other works. She refuses to help, but he wants her, the best-selling author of Metronome and Love, to write for his game. He likewise asks for her to come to the AV room after school. On the way to the AV room, one of Tomoya's classmates tells him that Mrs. Asumi is asking him to go to the faculty room, but he says he has something important to do. She nods and thanks him again for helping her catch her beret during spring break. Tomoya's eyes widen. Eri is incensed to also find Utaha in the AVR room, and it is obvious that the two don't get along. Tomoya runs up to the girl and learns that her name is Megumi, the girl he has been searching for. Tomoya brings Megumi to a family restaurant, and he's further convinced of her appeal. Her height, her perfect curves, and her silky smooth skin. Tomoya is surprised that she remembers someone as unremarkable as him, but she reveals that Tomoya is quite the celebrity, known for getting light novels added to the library and screening anime films during festivals. In contrast, Megumi calls herself plain, but Tomoya prefers the term unfinished product. She asks if Tomoya is dating the two most popular girls in school, as Eri and Utaha are staring daggers at him from the outside. Tomoya introduces them to Megumi, the newest member of their circle. Even though she wasn't consulted about this, Tomoya tells Megumi not to be afraid of them, as behind their cool demeanors are nasty personalities, a comment that gets him stomped on the foot. Eri and Utaha give his proposal another scathing review, but he's undeterred, and he will review it as many times as it takes until they approve of it. The next day, he invites Megumi to his house, but he is annoyed that she fails to perform any basic heroine tropes. But that's why he brought her here, to mold her into the ideal visual novel heroine. He has her play a popular visual novel, but she doesn't understand why the girl doesn't act like an actual girl and is confused by the other Mo elements. After an entire day of playing, she said the game was good, and she might have even cried if Tomoya would stop providing commentary for 5 minutes. While lecturing her about the game, he has an epiphany about why Eri and Utaha hated his proposal. It has nothing to keep the player hooked. As Megumi gets up to leave, Tomoya reveals that the game they played actually has a sequel, and he convinces her to stay the night. He calls her weird for being okay with spending the night, though he isn't one to talk either. Tomoya has until the end of Golden Week to come up with a proposal that will wow Eri and Utaha. However, Megumi cannot help, as she's in Hokkaido on a family vacation. Tomoya wastes an entire day reading light novels, but he muses that he has at least 3 days left. He's surprised that Eri's in his room working on drafts for an upcoming doujin event. Eri tells him he should just give up on making a draft, but he replies that if Eri can become a popular artist, then he can become a popular game creator. Utaha suddenly shows up at their front door, prompting Eri to hide while Tomoya hastily hides her materials. Utaha learns that he has made little progress with his proposal and suggests that he remain a pig consumer. However, he believes he can produce something spectacular. Utaha accepts his resolve. As she leaves, she suggests that he get his entire circle together if he wants to produce a quality product, and that he should have hidden the bike as well. Eri rolls out of the closet shouting profanities at Utaha. That evening, he calls Megumi, remembering Utaha's words to get her involved, but he tells her to enjoy her vacation. She asks him what made her stand out, and though he can't name anything specific, he says it was fun hanging out with her. Tomoya ends up wasting 2 full days. He takes a walk, hoping to find inspiration. He's surprised to see Megumi back early, talking and acting like a visual novel character. She reveals she came back a few days earlier, and with Eri and Utaha's help, she was able to play the role of a romance heroine. She still isn't sure what Tomoya wants to do, but she wants to support him anyway. Tomoya is reinvigorated, and he drags Megumi back to his house to begin working immediately. Utaha and Eri emerge from their hiding spot. Though Eri regrets getting roped in, Utaha looks forward to working with the Eri. As Megumi waves back, Eri makes a sour face. Utaha refuses to hold an interview set up by her editor, Machida. but she changes her mind once she hears who the interviewer is. Meanwhile, Tomoya has Megumi read Metronome in Love, Utaha's debut light novel with over 500,000 sales. Tomoya wants to ask Utaha for details about her next novel, but Megumi says there might be some ethical problems with that. Tomoya's hearing of ethical strikes a nerve. Regardless, today is the day he gets to ask Utaha something about the book. Tomoya, popularly known by his online persona Taki, interviews Utaha. To Tomoya's dismay, many of Utaha's comments are unusable for their unenthusiastic and sarcastic attitude. He's surprised to learn that he personally had a hand in uplifting Metronome in Love sales. After he reviewed it on his website, sales tripled. Utaha finally gives a usable comment. To thank all her supporters, she will put in the effort for her upcoming projects. She reveals she's joining Tomoya's circle to work on his visual novel. A few days later, Eri puts on a tsundere routine in front of the AV room, and Utaha tells her to just get inside. Tomoya lays out their timeline, but Eri and Utaha find the schedule to be too tight, and after a brief argument, they settle on a provisional schedule. He asks what he can do, and Utaha points out that they need funding, roughly 1 million yen, to cover the costs of production. That's the kind of money a high school student does not have. However, he resolves to make it happen. He begins taking on even more part-time jobs, but he's surprised to see Megumi on a date with a boy. When he confronts her about this, she explains that that was her cousin Keiichi. He says that this compromises her heroine purity. When he learns that she plans to go out with him again this weekend, he volunteers to take his place. Surprisingly, she agrees. Production on Tomoya's game begins, but there are some slight hiccups. Eri is unable to draw any usable character sketches because of Megumi's deadpan attitude, and the latter excuses herself for self-study. Tomoya asks Eri how to act during a date, which shocks both her and Utaha. Eri finds an otaku just uttering the word date disgusting. When Eri learns that he's going on a date with Megumi this weekend, she's enraged, while Utaha enters a dark and gritty state of mind, but Tomoya just hopes she's in the zone. The next day, Utaha delivers a finished plot proposal. As she goes to sleep, Tomoya reads out the plot. The main character, Seiji, meets Megumi atop a hill. They eventually start dating, but Megumi becomes a yandere, and she begins having memories of Seiji from her past life, who is actually her brother. When an enemy from the past returns, the two siblings must fight together, and after they emerge victorious, they confirm their love again. Tomoya says something feels off about it, and wants to make some revisions, despite being 3 days away from Eri's deadline. At their last meeting before the weekend, Eri impatiently tells Tomoya to approve the script already, but he still insists on making changes. After tensions run high, Eri leaves, while Utaha remarks he still won't give her an answer. Despite this, Tomoya attends the mall opening with Megumi. He's shocked by the unruly crowd, which he says is unlike the organized Comiket events. However, he realizes he can just treat this as Comiket, and he draws up plans to visit the stores Megumi wants. His strategy pays off, and they cover everything she wanted in a single day. While chilling in a glasses store, Tomoya has an epiphany. He apologizes that he won't be able to see her home, there's somewhere he has to be. In a flashback, Tomoya meets Utaha for the first time during a fan signing event. Tomoya races to find Utaha, but she refuses to answer his calls. Machida tells Utaha to just call him already, but she refuses. 6 months ago, Tomoya began hanging out with Utaha, excitedly talking about her novels. Utaha is flattered, and she asks for his advice for her next novel entry. But when she asks Tomoya to read her manuscript based on his advice, he refuses to read something tailored specifically to him. Tomoya walks back to her hotel and she starts calling him by his current nickname, Mr. Ethical. Tomoya arrives in front of Utaha's hotel. She has him take a shower while Machida leaves them alone in a room by themselves. The last train is left. Utaha becomes flustered, but Machida gives her a reassuring thumbs up. Tomoya realizes too late what kind of situation he's in, and though he tries to run away, Utaha makes him sit. Tomoya reveals he found her thanks to her mother's help, and Utaha says she's here to work on brand tie-ins with her work. Tomoya grabs Utaha by the shoulders and asks her to make him a man, causing her legs to tense up, but he corrects himself and says to make him a creator instead. Utaha kicks his head and asks him what problems he has with the script. He reveals that he had a lot of fun on his date with Megumi. He dislikes having only a single plot dedicated to the main heroine's past, and would like an alternative route wherein the player can enjoy the heroine's ordinary life in the present. Utaha is offended that he would ignore the past completely, but he clarifies that he simply wants another choice. The two spend the entire night revising the script. In the morning, Utaha commends Tomoya's creative vision, and remarks she will be counting on him from now on. As she leaves, she sends him a photo of them together in bed. Eri ropes in Tomoya to help her make an R18 doujin about Love Prism. Due to her tight deadline, she has him play the part of the main character, Kohei, while she plays Mariko. They exchange embarrassing lines, culminating in Eri saying, "Mess me up." After a tiring all-nighter, Eri makes her deadline. The next day, Tomoya criticizes Megumi's sudden hairstyle change, explaining it could jeopardize her entire image as the main heroine. Tomoya says she can't rely on cheap tricks like this, but instead, time-tested classics. Megumi replies, like blonde twin tails or long black hair? Tomoya acknowledges that the tsundere and sharp-tongued senior are common tropes, but there exists others, like a doting junior. Suddenly, a girl runs over to embrace Tomoya, causing Eri and Utaha's jaws to drop. This girl is Izumi, an old friend of Tomoya's and 2 years his junior. Eri tells Utaha that she knows her as a girl who always follows Tomoya around. Utaha teases that Izumi seems more like a high schooler than Eri. Izumi suddenly gives Tomoya what is assumed to be a love letter, but it turns out to be a ticket for her doujin circle at the upcoming summer Comiket. She credits Tomoya with introducing her to otaku culture after he gave her a copy of Little Rhapsody, a visual novel. Hearing this strikes a nerve with Eri. Later, Eri is upset with Tomoya for letting Izumi play Little Rhapsody. She believes a masterpiece such as that should not have been wasted in an amateur. Suddenly, they encounter a boy named Iori, Tomoya's old friends and Izumi's brother. Tomoya was initially excited that the most good-looking boy in middle school was also an otaku like him, but he was disgusted when he saw how Iori was simply using otaku culture to social climb. Tomoya denounces Iori's methods as underhanded, but he reveals that he became a representative for Rogue on Rogue, a wildly popular doujin circle spearheaded by the famous Akane. He reveals that his circle is also planning on releasing a game just like Tomoya's, and he plans to steal Eri away as his artist. Back in elementary school, Eri gifts Tomoya Little Rhapsody. They begin bonding over it. Megumi is confused as to why Tomoya and Eri are working on a doujin. They explain that Eri's deadline is right around the corner. Megumi sits down to play Little Rhapsody and Tomoya can't be prouder. Eri can't help but be invested in the game from the corner of her eye, and by the end, she actually sheds a few tears. Later, Tomoya is impressed by Eri's consistent quality work and asks her if she plans to continue drawing professionally. She reveals that several circles have already expressed interest in recruiting her, including Rogue on Rogue. He asks her if she plans to take them up on the offer, but she starts playing Little Rhapsody after finally finishing her draft. She says for now she's on Team Tomoya and promises to prioritize him. She sure as hell won't work with a seedy Iori. The next day, Tomoya and Megumi attend the first day of summer Comiket. They help Izumi set up her table when Megumi spots several large boxes. They explain that popular circles tend to attract more buyers, including the National Tax Agency. When Tomoya sees how excellent Izumi's book is, he goes out of his way to print out a sample banner to advertise. Izumi is shy about it, since she thinks the page spread is incomplete, but Tomoya insists it is the page or nothing. Megumi agrees. Soon a crowd gathers around Izumi's table, and before long, it is sold out. Tomoya approaches Eri after, but she's upset that he was passionate about reading and promoting Izumi's work, something he had never done for her. When Tomoya can't give her a straight answer, she storms off in tears. Utaha responds to Megumi's call to help Tomoya figure out how to approach his problem with Eri. Utaha criticizes Tomoya's actions as immature, as he shouldn't have praised another girl's work in front of Eri. This might be a fatal blow to Eri's heart and morale, and Tomoya should make amends. The next day, Eri's Fujoshi mother heads off to Comiket and reminds her of her father's party later that evening. Meanwhile, Tomoya heads off as well, hoping to reconcile with Eri. At Comiket, he approaches Iori to ask him for help. Later that evening, as Eri prepares for her father's party, Tomoya reaches out to her from a tree, dressed as the main character from Little Rhapsody. Eri is moved, and she takes his hand. This plan was orchestrated with Megumi and Utaha's help to win back Eri's heart by inducing nostalgia for her memories with Tomoya. Utaha remarks that Eri is just waiting for her otaku to sweep her off in a white geekmobile. They run back to their old school where they reminisce for a while. However, Eri is still upset that Tomoya gave Izumi a Little Rhapsody, and says it is too late to apologize. But Tomoya turns the trope on its head and demands that Eri apologize instead, bringing up how she ended up ignoring him back in elementary school. However, Eri retorts that her decision was a hard one, and she has suffered just as much, if not more than him. She asks if her work really is inferior to Izumi's, and Tomoya replies that it is, but Eri still has more room for improvement. She shouldn't settle for good, she has to be great. The two reconcile and Eri swears that she'll be Tomoya's number one. As the fireworks go off, Tomoya carries Eri back home, though they acknowledge they still have issues to iron out. The next day, Eri finishes designing the circle's banner. Tomoya names it Blessing Software, but when Utaha points out this can be translated into Megumi software, Eri goes ballistic. Later, Iori gives Izumi an art print drawn by Eri. However, on the backside is a drawing declaring that she won't lose to her. As Blessing Software concludes another strategy meeting, Tomoya is surprised to see his cousin Michiru taking a shower in his house. She explains that she and her father had an argument about her band, so to cool off, she'll be staying at his house for a while. Tomoya is rather conscious of Michiru's skimpy outfit, and she takes great delight in teasing him about it by wrapping his head around her legs. God, I wish that were me. The next day, Tomoya and the others continue to work on the visual novel. However, the issue of music pops up. which they acknowledge is an integral part, and they remark that any responsible producer should have contacted a music writer by now. Tomoya receives a text from Michiru, which Eri discovers. Tomoya is interrogated, and they learn that Michiru is his cousin whom he has known since birth. Utaha remarks that she's the primordial childhood friend that makes all other childhood friends seem like knockoffs. Eri, who had thought she was Tomoya's oldest friend, passes out from shock. When Tomoya arrives home, he finds Michiru in his room in a disheveled state. She shows off her trusty guitar that she retrieved from her home, but Tomoya realizes that several of his posters and figures are missing. Michiru had thrown them out. Tomoya hastily retrieves them and reprimands her. Michiru convinces Tomoya to abandon the otaku life, offering to introduce him to some girls who would love to date someone from an elite school like Toyogasaki. He retorts that she doesn't have a boyfriend either, but she replies that she's focusing on her dream, music. Likewise, Tomoya also has a dream, but Michiru points out that the visual novel industry is failing. Later, while Tomoya is in the shower, he hears Michiru playing her guitar, which he feels perfectly suits the game he's making. He invites her to join a circle just as his towel falls to the ground. Tomoya introduces Michiru to the rest of Blessing Software, hoping to have her do their music. Sawamura's brain shuts down upon realizing her inferiority as a childhood friend. However, Michiru declines to help as she has no interest in otaku culture. Her abrasive comments attract Utaha's anger, but Michiru insists that their worlds are just too far apart. She could never get along with an otaku, but she gets along with Tomoya just fine as he has always been that reliable guy, a fact that Eri agrees with. When Michiru shares a story of how Tomoya carried her home when she sprained her ankle, Eri demands to know when this happened. Later, Tomoya tries convincing Michiru again to make music for his game, but she wants to prioritize her band. She reveals that her father has agreed to support her band if they can secure a proper manager. Tomoya agrees to find someone, but Michiru wants him. Tomoya says he's too busy, but Michiru points out that his circle members aren't enthusiastic about the game and are only sticking around for him. She asks him, become her manager and help her dreams come true. The next day, Tomoya psychs himself up for work. Meanwhile, Megumi is at Eri's house for a crash course on how to code the game. In one scene, she prefers to have the heroine smile while the main character goes to another girl's house, citing that she should be putting on a brave face. The next day, Tomoya calls Megumi and asks her if she and the others genuinely want to make a game. She invites him out to breakfast and reveals she has been practicing coding on the side. Tomoya is surprised, and Megumi explains that she wants to help in any way she can. She reassures him that nobody is helping him reluctantly. They all want to make this game with him. She has him continue playing the game, revealing she has altered the script to remind him of the time he accused her of dating Keiichi. Ironic considering how close he and Michiru are. Tomoya bows his head to apologize. Tomoya has Megumi listen to the music he secretly recorded Michiru playing, and she asks him if Michiru really has nothing to do with otaku culture. Later that evening, Tomoya tells Michiru that he got her band a gig at an upcoming event. Michiru is grateful, but secretly Tomoya has some ulterior motive. Tomoya informs Michiru's band, Icy Tail, that they will be the opening act, composed of Toki on guitar, Ichika on bass, and Ranko on drums. Tomoya says it is all up to their talent now. Meanwhile, Megumi and Utaha find Eri and drag her to the venue. As they enter the dressing room, they find Michiru in a catgirl outfit riding Tomoya. She demands an explanation for the costumes, and Tomoya reveals the shocking truth. All her bandmates are otakus, and all the music they've been playing were covers of anime songs. He has reached an agreement with them. In exchange for managing their group as an anime band, they will allow Michiru to work on his game. Her bandmates apologize to Michiru for hiding it, but they really want her as a bandmate. Utaha remarks that saying cool lines from a cowgirl position can't be taken seriously. Megumi tells her not to say that. Michiru isn't sure if she can sing otaku songs as a non-otaku, but Tomoya reassures her, saying that her voice will definitely reach them. Utaha says cool lines from a lotus position can't be taken seriously. Megumi just covers her mouth. Later, with Tomoya cheering them on, Michiru and her band sing a cover of Sorairo Days, the opening theme of Gurren Lagann, a song that will pierce their hearts and the heavens. Afterwards, she closes with Cherish You, an original song. As she ends her set, she points to Tomoya and says, I love you, causing Utaha and Eri to kick him. He explains it's just how you say the band name, Icy Tail. Tomoya officially recruits Michiru as his music writer, as per their deal, but she still hasn't forgotten being forced to wear embarrassing outfits, and she performs a wrestling move on him. As Megumi and Eri walk home, they become closer together, and they begin calling each other by their first names. Later, Blessing Software completes the first route of the game, and Tomoya celebrates the occasion, but Eri goes straight back to the drawing board to work on the next route, while Utaha takes a power nap. With only 2 months left to the winter Comiket, Tomoya hopes to complete the game along with his friends. Before he can say anything that would raise bad flags, Eri smacks him in the head. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.